This is amazing doing this. Amazing doing this on a phone. I haven't done this before. So welcome, folks, if you're joining us here. Oops, somebody's just coming into the Zoom call. So if you're just joining us, please be sure to mute your own microphone so that you won't pop up in the recording here. Let me just wait a sec till we're all in. Welcome AJ. If you could just mute yourself, that'd be great. Okay. So my name's Jill Davey, and I'm a teacher with True North Insight. And tonight we're taking inspiration from very often repeated in the teachings, invitation from the Buddha to practice at the foot of a tree, or basically practice outside. And also, I was really inspired by an article that I'll put the link for this article down below in the YouTube recording. This article is by Gil Fronsdale, and it's called Buddhism in Nature. And so this practice and talk is really inspired by Gil's work and offering in that article. So total cred. Thank you very much, Gil, for sharing that. And so before the YouTube recording here, the Sangha, the community that is joining via the Zoom, was sharing some amazing insights and teachings, reminders to us about why being in nature is supportive to us, in what ways, and why we may like to practice meditation outside sometimes. And even if we're inside, there's lots of ways to connect with looking out a window, or being with plants in your home, or just feeling the elements within the body, within that even make our homes. Being near a window if you can. So some of the things that the community here shared in their wisdom is that when we're outside, there's a lot more sensations on the body. I can feel the coolness on my face, the breeze, the hardness of the ground underneath my feet and seat. There's a very, very different sounds and sensations. And so there's just a lot more wakefulness that can be here from all those sensations, and also can be more embodied, just feeling all these sensations in the body. Another part of nature. That was really sounded close and loud. Very wakeful. Another person in the community shared the felt experience, the deeply felt experience of interbeing, as Thich Nhat Hanh refers to it, or interconnectedness. When we're in nature, we can't, it's very hard to, no, it's not very hard. It's a little harder to stay feeling separate and alone, like really wrapped up in ourselves when we're in nature. I know a lot of people that, when they're really overwhelmed with thoughts, just getting outside into the forest, into a garden, by water, just a big sky, fresh air, all of that really, really can shift a mood profoundly, and has that potential for us. The plane's circling around again. And in addition to, just wait, in addition to the interbeing related to it, is the sense of belonging, that we are part of this web, and we are animals. We aren't as separate as we like to think we are many, many times. The sense of our impact and connection when we're walking on the ground and touching the ground and breathing the air and smelling the scents, etc. This is a lovely, beautiful, another insight here is humility of the grandeur, it's like, it's harder to be full of myself out here. It's yeah, humbling, especially the majesty, the immensity of nature can help remind us of humility. Um, and the teachings of the trees that and the airplanes. Wow. So just noticing Vedana and sound, pleasant, unpleasant, and impermanence, coming and going. So the stillness of the trees, the sense of presence of all the plants, like and deer or herons standing in the river, these teachings from the plants and animals that remind us of stillness and presence. And lastly is the inspiration of curiosity. It makes me think of kids when they're outside, and it really reminds me of those times as a kid and seeing things you would never see if you're inside, or even if you saw them like on your computer screen or something, it would not mean very much. But to see like walking sticks, those bugs look like a stick. I'd love to see another one of those again. It's been a long time, but they're just amazing. Um, watching a hummingbird today for a long time, and uh, the throat on this one bird it was in the sun, and it was like completely iridescent copper band through the throat that was just shimmering. It was amazing. And the stillness, I had to be still and quiet and very patient to just stand there near where it was on the window, because any movement and they won't come by at all. Yeah, so that curiosity and awe is another thing. One of the things that really stands out for me when practicing in nature is impermanence. The Everything's moving and changing even in the stillness, and um, the sounds are constantly changing, the winds are changing, and of course impermanence is one of the most accessible insights that can take us all the way to liberation when it's really investigated, really embodied and felt and known as an insight. Um, and Gil's, and we could go on. There's many reasons why to practice in nature. Um, so in Gil's article, Buddhism in Nature, he begins it by saying, when the Buddha at age 29 left his palace life to seek liberation, he spent most of his remaining 51 years living in forests, woodlands, and parks of northern India. 51 years. And he certainly had many supporters that would have given him housing if that's what he chose. Um, but these natural settings are very important in the teachings, and the Buddha is said to have died between two trees in the forest. His awakening, as we know, was sitting, um, not as we know, but as we're told, and unless you were there, I guess we don't really know. Um, underneath the Bodhi tree, the what we call the Bodhi tree is actually the scientific name for it is a ficus religiosa. And it's considered like a living symbol of the Buddha's awakening. Yeah. Um, And the Buddha's great awakening, as I was saying, happened around the age of 35, meditating outdoors under a tree protected by its canopy. And some of the imagery that's shared in the teachings from nature, there's so many, but just a few that Gil has shared in this article here. He says the Buddha often used examples and metaphors from nature to illustrate his teachings. Growing in spiritual practice is like the rising sun dispelling the darkness of night. Progress along the path of awakening is like mountain streams flowing downhill. You know, so once we're in the flow, once we've stepped into the path of awakening, there's a natural progression. Deep concentration is described like a peaceful pond where the hindrance are not rippling the water and boiling the water and coloring the water with beautiful dyes, etc., with desire and aversion, restlessness, and they're not sluggish with moss and weeds like sloth and torpor. So the awakened mind is like a still pond. Yeah. And spiritual maturity is called entering the stream. The stream enterer is the beginning of the stages of awakening. And of course, the lotus rising out of muddy water, which I'm just realizing in this talk how many of these things I have as personal images for me on my body. So I have an arm of a lotus coming out of the mud and a blue heron on my back and a mosquito on my arm to remind me to not be distracted by life's little annoyances. So I hope you don't mind me sharing those personal things, but they're visible if we were in person anyways. But you know, so a lot of these teachings of nature are really resonant for me as well. And here is a poem from Rosemary Watola Tromer called Belonging. And if you're watching on the YouTube, I will share this down below. So check that out, please, and support Rosemary. And you can subscribe to her a list to receive her poems daily, and then you can buy her a coffee to support her. So I'll start with this poem as we begin to meditate, and hopefully I might have to walk to the house if my battery keeps dropping quickly. It was charged. So wherever you are, begin to settle into your posture. Whether that posture is reclining or sitting or standing or walking, there are 4 postures for meditation. And as you come into your posture, this beautiful opportunity to connect with groundedness, with the sensations of rootedness. If you're laying down, you might feel that through your back body. If you're sitting, through your sitting bones or parts of your legs or feet, if you're in a chair. And imagine those places of contact growing roots and rooting down. And in that rootedness, also interconnectedness with all beings, the way the trees are interconnected under the soil. This poem is called Belonging. And if it's true we are alone together. The way blades of grass are alone, but exist as a field. Sometimes I feel it, the green fuse that ignites us, an inner hum that reminds us of our shared humanity. Just as 35 trillion red blood cells join in one body to become one blood, just as 136,000 notes make up one symphony, alone as we are, our small voices weave into the one big conversation. Our actions are essential to the one infinite story of what it is to be alive. When we feel alone, we belong to the grand communion of those who sometimes feel alone. We are the dust that hopes, a rising of dust, a pitch of dust, the dust that dances in the light with all other dust, the dust that makes the world. Opening to these sounds, arising and passing. We notice that some sounds are pleasant. We might like those ones to last or stay. Some sounds that are going to come and go will be unpleasant, and we might rather not have those. And so we just notice this is nature, pleasant and unpleasant, and it's impermanent. We can just let it be. Similarly to these sounds that are coming and going, pleasant or unpleasant, sensations of the body, whether you're practicing inside or outside. Maybe experiences of pressure or tingling or temperature or itching. And whether we experience those as a pleasant experience or an unpleasant one, we can see that they're all impermanent, coming and going, conditioned by things beyond our control, and we can just let them be. It's just nature. Really a great support to remember and feel into the possibility of noticing and experiencing humility, being humbled by the immensity, the grandeur of life, whether you're inside or outside. Helping us find some perspective in our personal sense of overwhelm at times, or a sense of worry and the stories that preoccupy us. Pascal Leclerc often refers to and teaches us about renunciation as, pardon me for paraphrasing Pascal, returning this sense of self to nature, renunciating that we often feel so isolated and separated in our selfing. And really, we are nature, we are elements, we are animals. Giving back ourselves to nature. The earth element in our bodies, knowing the earth element of the ground beneath you, whether you're inside or outside. The air element of your body, knowing the air element of nature, interconnected, breathing in what the trees breathe out, the trees use or breathe in what we breathe out. Just air element, knowing air element. And the brightness, the energy of curiosity that is awakened here, whether we're inside or outside, very important part of our practice is to have energy and investigation of how things really are. Be curious and awake. This is mindfulness, is awakening. So rather than if there's any sleepiness or dullness or boredom or habit in your practice, can you really be inspired and curious? How is it really? What's going on right now? In meditation, we learn to be present for things as they are. How is it? What's happening for you right now? So I'll be quiet for a few minutes here and we can all really practice this curiosity. Humility, curiosity, interbeing, and presence. I'm sorry, friends, I had to cut that practice short because my battery's running out and it's gonna cut out. Too bad. Maybe we'll do it again. This was an experiment. So next time I'll have earbuds and my battery was really charged up, but I guess it uses a lot to do these Zoomy things. So if you've joined us on the YouTube, please check the recording down, the information down below with a link to Gil Fronsdale's article on Buddhism in nature. It's very beautiful. He also has some other ones on other stuff on nature. and Rosemary's poem on belonging, which is also very beautiful. And if you are able to offer support to me, there's a link there for that, for me to continue offering these Dharma teachings and practice. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for joining us on the recording, and I will end that now. Oh, nope, that's the wrong end button. I almost ended the meeting. Let's see, recording, stop.